Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Since I'm given the time to start at 9:35, Brother Alberto, that means I finish at 10:45. My name is Noripah Kamso. My boss told me once that I should dress up for the job I want. And I've always asked, what should I wear for a homestay billionaire? I never get any answer. And that is why I'm here today again, looking for a job. In my previous life, I was an Islamic asset management CEO. It has been quite refreshing. I became an academician, and for the last 2 years, I didn't attend this conference because I was based then in United States. I'm now a fellow in Oxford Center for Islamic Studies, and I'm establishing a department, which is an Islamic finance department in Oxford Center for Islamic Studies. So we are actually, thank you. So we are aggressively looking for a permanent fellow to be based in that department, running Islamic finance program. I have 5 years program ready, but ideally we are looking for a professor because it's very much research-based. A practitioner can be one as well if you're a very professory person like Brother Iqbal, for example, offering you a job. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. The topic this morning is on asset management, a liquid real asset class. Now, before I start, I know most of the audience here who are Takaful operators can be potential investors. And we also know that Takaful operators is challenged to invest directly in property market because it's very, very illiquid. And that's actually a myth. So if I can ask from the audience here, who in this room has unmet liquidity backed by property investment? Meaning you would want to invest in property, but because it's illiquid, so it has been unmet, your aspiration to invest in property. One? You scratching your head? Oh, hands up. Okay, there's one. Okay. Now, let's draw on the experience and expertise we have from the panel today. This panel will take you on a transformative journey if you find it a challenge. Now that you have not put your hands up, we're going to tweak it into taking you on a journey. Now, we will take you across a value chain. We have Mr. Joe Robrechts, I wish he has a simpler name, who is the Executive Chairman, CEO, and shareholder of Triamant. And we have Dr. Hardeep Tamana, who is the Managing Director of Avenir Registrars. And we have Abbas. He has been with Amiri as a very powerful support in real estate funds. So this panel will look and hold your hand, starting with Joe, demonstrating to you from a illiquid property product. We monetize it to be liquid. And then Abbas, as the fund manager specializing in real estate product, will structure this illiquid property into tradable property funds, plus his other breadth of funds offerings. And Dr. Hardeep, he will use technology to assist us in the registration and provide assistance for an after sales on your property investment. I will introduce the speaker as they start to present 15 minutes maximum each, and we will have question and answer after the 3 presentations. So I'll start with Joe. Have you heard of disruptive technology? Everybody have heard of that, right? Okay. Now, Joe is offering a disruptive live enablement platform. Now, Joe is here as a driver of a disruptive platform in a nursing home and care business model, which really is about a platform that is connected between the demand and life enablement by specific demographics. He talks about care for life, living and care in a modern society. So he has a platform which is a residential care campus idea of living and caring, which is flowing very seamlessly. And this is based in Belgium. So Joe is broadly and thoughtful in a brave way in his presentation today. We shall invite Joe so that we can progress to listen to his proposal. Joe, it's yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2 most important days in your life are the day that you are born and the day you find out why. Mark Twain once wrote. With our company, Triamant, we are inspiring people to find their purpose in life and make the world a better place. I would like to show you a 2-minute video that tells you what Triamant is all about. We will see it now, and we create vibrant neighborhoods for a mix of generations. Triamant wants to make the world a better place by starting out from places with real heart, so that people can live a happy life as long as possible and as healthy as possible. Our plans involve an intergenerational mix of people, with autonomy and vitality at the top of our list. The senior of tomorrow shudders at the thought of yesterday's offer. And that was the eye-opener that got us to fundamentally reconsider the way people hope to grow older and what their options are in that regard. At Triamant, we draw on the key advantage of each of the 7 traditional housing types in Flanders without the pitfalls that go with them. Triamant combines the right ingredients for multiple age groups. The hominess of an own home, the cozy feel and solidarity of intergenerational homes and co-housing, the care availability from residential care centers, the infrastructural accessibility of assisted living, the energy efficiency of a block of flats, and finally the neighborhood spirit that comes with a new development. These elements make up Flanders' 8th housing type, Triamant, so that interim moves become a thing of the past. Seamless transition throughout life, that's one of our distinguishing characteristics. Today, Triamant boasts 5 neighborhoods, true villages or urban districts, and that spread over the whole of Flanders. They consist of complete ecosystems that are not established in a single go, but they are rather rolled out in stages. 3 stages are in operation, the following 3 are being built, the other 4 have already received permits. As soon as the buildings are all up and occupied, Triamant will offer space to 1,250 residents. However, Triamant's #1 goal is to improve quality of life. Not simply so people live longer, but to help make those years healthier and happier too. We are adding life to years and years to life. In a nutshell, it's all about happiness. The world's older population continues to grow at a stunning rate. In 2015, 8.5% of the population was 65 plus. This percentage will jump to nearly 17% by 2050. At the same time, consumer needs and wishes are also changing. Today's 60s and 70 years olds shudder at the thought of becoming isolated when their children move away to distant places. Who wants to go to a nursing home? People would rather live amongst family and friends, surrounded by the safety and comfort of the care they need, yet stay in control of their own lives. At the same time, the world is evolving at a rapid pace. A number of technological revolutions, such as smart home automation, sensor technologies, and so on, will impact the life we live in the near future. Medical breakthroughs in areas like genetic sequencing, immunotherapy, stem cell research will soon improve our control over several age-related diseases. And all of these developments feed into the social currents reshaping our everyday lives, like the continuous quest for a better quality of life, the necessity of community building, health as a driver of change, and a concern for the planet. There is a need for a new way of living altogether. Society needs unique and total solutions that respond to deep-rooted human needs, such as the need for safety, recognition, vitality, sense of belonging. And also unique and total solutions that are affordable for the customer and are adding significant high-quality added value. The Triamant integrated ecosystem addresses these societal inspirations, making the world a better place, creating a better life, starting from places with real heart. That is the mission where Triamant is standing for. We are helping people to live as long as possible, as healthy as possible, a happy life. To that end, Triamant creates and keeps on managing forever, welcoming and vibrant, eco-proof neighborhoods, which enable lifelong living for a mix of generations in a completely adjusted infrastructure, which focus on independence, on autonomy, on keeping control of your life, and on vitality, low-risk, healthy lifestyle, while offering 24/7 support from health and care professionals à la carte. Triamant's three essential pillars are quality housing, integrated care, and focus on life. Regarding the housing, Triamant offers a normal setting to live in for people of various generations, age groups, and health conditions. Triamant accommodates all phases of life, is completely push-chair and wheelchair friendly. There are family homes, flats for young couples and singles, flats for rehabilitation, hotel rooms, flats for independent living, for short stay, for people with disabilities, and flats for getting back on track. For instance, getting rid of an alcohol addiction a person would have. Common areas, such as a brasserie, a library, homely sitting areas, flower and herb gardens, and central interior gardens, provide opportunity for contact. At Triamant, in terms of care, we have 5 layers. In the core is good self-management that we stimulate, to staying healthy over the long term. Connectedness comes from being able to rely on informal support from family and friends, neighbors and volunteers. And ultimately, in the 5th circle, formal care is always there as a backup. In a crisis situation, assume you fall down on a Saturday night at 2 in the morning, we commit to arrive on the scene within 300 seconds. That is half the speed of an ambulance in my country. Community-assisted self-management is what we believe in. Engaging and empowering families and older people allows to integrate the formal and the informal health and care services to maximize care efficiency and to maximize prevention. With a very active prevention policy, we aim to postpone your first chronic disease and swap unhealthy years for healthy ones. We want people to keep on living. Our residents tell me they feel reborn, making new friends, making healthy choices. They learn that the way they act on the small things in daily life deeply impacts their satisfaction and feeling of happiness. And once care is needed, Triamant offers an extensive package of paramedical and medical services on the basis of preferred partnerships with nurses, doctors, and hospitals. The third pillar, Triamant promotes and paves the way for a low-risk, healthy lifestyle, the green curve on this diagram. And for those who adhere to a high-risk, unhealthy lifestyle, the red curve, Triamant helps, for those who want, it's always a free choice, of course, helps in the step-by-step transition towards the green curve and therefore towards more quality of life. Our trained life coaches help residents achieve behavioral change by using conscious as well as nudging techniques, resulting in app-supported individual life path. As personal behavior is the #1 key factor impacting your health. Triamant offers a total package of life enablement services in the areas of safety, exercise, healthy food, strong community, individual development opportunities. As an example, we organize a Triamant Academy with inspiring speakers for lifelong learning, relaxation and sleep, a purpose in life. Take the lady in the picture on the right. Used to be a teacher. She now is our librarian as a customer, and she did the entire library cataloging by herself. And last but not least, meaningfulness. Doing well by doing good. We focus on these 7 elements for a reason. Studies by a team of National Geographic scientists have shown that there are 5 regions on Earth with a very significant number of vital centenarians. These places, like Okinawa in Japan and 4 others, are called blue zones. It appears that the secrets of health and longevity are exactly the 7 elements I just mentioned. And now Triamant's ultimate goal is to turn every Triamant neighborhood area into the first man-made blue zones on Earth. And this evidence-based, scientifically substantiated by 2 Belgian universities, Louvain and Ghent, who committed to guide us scientifically over the next 10 years in order to be able to prove that living at Triamant can actually mean adding life to years and years to life, like I said on the video. And that within a much broader ambition. The ambition as being the living labs for a countrywide blue zone in the medium term. And why do it not over and over again in other countries? And therefore, Triamant aims to go for an integrated life approach in which a community-assisted, health-conscious lifestyle leads to optimal quality of life. In a hearing
of the European Commission last December, where I was invited on the subject of the future of neighborhoods, Triamant was recognized as the front runner in Europe, leading the way to a sustainable, socially responsible, and completely inclusive way and model for the combination of housing, care, and life. Today, Triamant is creating neighborhoods and managing neighborhoods at 5 locations in my home country, Belgium. It represents over 150 million committed investment so far, with another 10 sites under negotiation. The Belgian rollout plan is 25 neighborhoods over the years to come, always very open to the environment, wherever it is. But the need is universal. Spontaneous interests from various other countries, like China, USA, Abu Dhabi, Turkey, and a number of European countries, reflect the desire to impact our unique ecosystem. The first international sites are in exploration. A franchising or licensing model, backed by financial resources, will allow us to move country by country. Hence, could financial resources come from the Islamic world? I understand that a great number of Islamic financial institutions, and let me say I'm not a Islamic finance specialist, on the contrary, but we have a number of advisors in the field in the meantime, that a number of institutions indeed have a hard time managing very short-term liquidity, and at the same time looking for a more flexible money management instrument. Triamant offers you a sustainable and scalable liquidity management opportunity by connecting your unused liquidity with a real estate-based solution, a state-of-the-art real estate-based solution that responds to societal needs. Triamant does and will comply with Islamic finance, which matches perfectly with the corporate social responsibility concept that is in the heart of our mission. The 4 major principles of Islamic finance which need to be fulfilled in this regard are prohibition on the charging of interest, riba, prohibition on uncertainty, garar, prohibition on gambling and speculation, maisir, and prohibition on the use or dealing in certain banned commodities. Islamic finance-compliant investment structures are growing continuously. Luxembourg, as a global finance center, has already emerged as the first place within non-Muslim countries. As a matter of fact, Luxembourg is the 3rd largest jurisdiction for Islamic funds in the world. And this is the key reason why Triamant would opt for Luxembourg as the marketplace to set up the appropriate financial structure for this. Triamant's goals is to attract investors through its financial business in Luxembourg via structuring based and backed assets which are Islamic finance fully compliant. Here you see what the structure of our business looks like. A special limited partnership, an SLP, appears to be the most common investment structure for such an Islamic finance product. Having said that, Triamant will remain fully flexible for considering any other leading investor proposal. The GP, the general partner, is mandatory within the Luxembourg legal provisions. The Scholar Board, acting within the principle of Sharia governance, plays a crucial role. The Scholar Board certifies the structure as Sharia compliant and makes sure that that remains during its lifetime. On the bottom, you see the underlying investment being the full-service product offered by Triamant. And on the top, you remark the investors. the finance instruments most likely to be used to implement the above-mentioned investments via a Luxembourg SLP or the Sukuk Al-Istishna structure and the Sukuk Al-Ijara structure. Based upon this Sharia-compliant structure, Triamant could serve the Takaful community. Triamant's investments are also very likely to fit the main purpose of a Takaful, considering the insurance aspects therein. We target to identify a reference investor who will take the role of market maker. By converting short-term resources into long-term needs, unused Islamic liquidity could find their way to above competitive returns for the short term. And besides that, specific planning can be done for medium-term notes and long-term paper. Nevertheless, and to conclude, as said before, Triamant's welcoming any suggestions from potential investors and stakeholders. Come and talk to us. We also have a booth in the coffee area with a lot of documentation. Together, we will set up the right formula in our ambition to shape the society of the future, to make the world a better place. Belgian chocolates included. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Thank you. So that was really interesting. I have not met someone like Joe and someone in his business. So I spent some time Googling, and I was really impressed to the extent that I relate him to the conference I attended in University of Oxford inside Business School yesterday. I was in the panel which want to collaborate Islamic investing with impact investing. And for the first time, I was able to embrace that actually Islamic investing does not embrace social development, social justice, and social welfare. All the negative screening in Islamic investing has resulted in purely meeting Islamic principles, which was, listed just now. But what's interesting now, I am able to actually see the collaboration of Islamic principles with the practices that is being introduced by a very interesting disruptive nursing house platform here. And this would provide you an early wake-up call to your brain to prepare some questions later. But before you come up with your burning questions for Joe, I will have to introduce the second speaker. The second speaker is Mr. Abbas Khaku, and he is the Senior Investment Associate of Amiri Capital. Now, if you yourself or Takaful operators yourself wants to invest in a property, who do you go to? A real estate agent. Traditionally, that's how you do it. Is that correct? But in this case, if you want to invest in a property, a liquid property, tradable, traceable, transparent, you just need to go to Abbas Khaku. So what Abbas is going to share with us today is also equally interesting from the standpoint of monetizing real estates into REITs as well as other product offerings. And I wouldn't let the cat out of the bag. I think we just let him present first, and then we could probably further comment if we can get Abbas to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Far too kind in your introduction, Datuk. Good morning. My name is Abbas Khaku. From that introduction, I hope you got that at least. I wanted to talk to you about, as Datuk mentioned, the options that are available to operators in Takaful for investing into real estate. There are several ways that can be done, and a key concern for Takaful operators, of course, is liquidity, and how you create liquidity from an illiquid asset class is what we're here to talk about in this session. Let me run straight through into the overview. So the 4 key ways of investing into property are direct investment, where you own the asset itself directly. You can purchase shares in a REIT or a property fund. You can purchase shares in funds of property funds, or you can purchase ETFs, which look to replicate the full market. Let's look at the first one very quickly. Direct real estate investment. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with this. We can run through very quickly the benefits. You're able to select your asset at an individual level. You're able to audit very quickly and easily on the Sharia compliance of the tenant. You're able to check that or ensure that if you apply leverage, you know that Sharia compliant also. What are the risks associated with this? The risk of holding an individual asset brings with it, of course, the idiosyncratic risk of having an event at your property as opposed to other properties. It also can become quite complex and may require the engagement of advisors. The fundamental point here, of course, is that you need to consider your liquidity requirements and regulatory capacity, and this is clearly the least liquid of the forms of investment. How can you hold these assets? You can hold them through SPVs, which are special purpose vehicles, which effectively mean companies. That allows you control over the sale process and is the most basic form of investment into real estate. There is another alternative, which is a private REIT. A REIT is a real estate investment trust, and it's a fairly new phenomenon. It's been around for a long time in the US. It's been around for a bit less time in the UK, circa 10 years. It allows, this particular type of REIT is called a private REIT, which allows you to have a very small number of shareholders, so you can have just yourself as the shareholder. You are able, through a REIT, to have various tax benefits, including on value-added tax, including on corporation tax, and including other forms also. What about liquidity? How does a private REIT help you with liquidity? It allows for a slightly easier sale process. Why is that? Because you are able to sell off pieces of the REIT to different investors. You're able to divest certain parts of the asset through the REIT into your fellow Takaful operators or someone who wants to acquire it from you. So that's the first and the most obvious form of real estate investment. The next is shares in REITs and property funds. So this is now we're looking at public REITs. These often have a very large number of underlying investors and a very liquid market for you to sell back the asset your shares into. How they operate is they invest into properties themselves directly and provide dividends to investors through returns from those assets. What are the benefits of these? There are a large number of these types of funds available. Of course, in this we look at mostly in the UK, but also in other jurisdictions. They improve diversification for the amount of money that you would spend or invest into a fund. You clearly have access to far more properties, and your risk is then spread in that way. There are tax-efficient structures. So again, REITs have the corporation tax and VAT savings. REITs also are very heavily regulated in the UK and in Europe. It means that you are certain of the information you're provided. You are given various protections as an investor. Now, what are the risks or the potential pitfalls of this strategy? There are very few Islamic REITs available. I know there are some now listed in Dubai, for example, but within Europe, if you want to access European markets, there are very few available currently. It is therefore, with the non-Sharia compliant REITs, it is harder to verify the underlying assets to see whether the tenants are Sharia compliant, and then of course leverage. When a REIT is not Sharia compliant, it is less likely for the REIT to undertake in Sharia compliant leverage. Again, the whole point of this this session is on liquidity. Why does this help you with liquidity? Of course, it is easy to dispose of shares. There's a very regular trading market, and that's the case for all the next forms of investment also. The next one is a fund of property funds. There are several of these available. They operate by investing into funds, as we spoke of earlier. This means that they have further diversification, of course, and the risks, of course, again, are similar, where you are even less likely to be able to drill down into the assets themselves and the tenants themselves, because there are far more of them and the data is less available. Again, liquidity is improved with having a regular trading market. The last one we're going to look at is ETFs and tracking indices. These allow you to track a whole universe or a subset of the universe of funds available in the marketplace. So that one bullet is incorrect. So the benefits are improved diversification even further. The risks are, again, it is practically impossible due to the wide number of assets to track the Sharia compliance, and again, it's easy to dispose of the investments. So, given that there are these risks and these challenges, why have I talked about these last three forms of investment? I think for me it is that if the Takaful industry feels this is a requirement and feels that there's a need that is unmet currently, then it is the conventional space are able to provide these products for you. You would need to engage with them. You need to make your needs known and make your voices heard. This will enable and the show of demand will enable the product to become available. The REITs are very compatible with Sharia. They're very Islamic based. They're asset backed. They have low leverage levels, and so converting a REIT into a Sharia compliant product is very straightforward, in my opinion. Of course, there are full Sharia compliance matters to be considered, but if there was perceived to be an increase in demand from investors, this is something that I know many operators would consider. With that, I'll close. I want to keep this brief, and hopefully have a few questions from yourselves afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abbas. When I listen to Abbas talking, I actually am reminded of my previous life. Because I was the founding CEO of an Islamic asset management company, and my job was actually presenting all those product offerings to a crowd of people. So it's so interesting that it reminds me of a joke on fund managers like us, like you. So there was this man who visits his fund manager and says, "How do I start a small investment portfolio?" And the fund manager replies, start a large one and wait for 6 months. So, not relating that to what Abbas has been presenting, you would probably have quite an amount of questions to ask based on his product offerings, which is how liquid and tradable the real estate is. But before we can entertain your further questions, we now need to progress to the next speaker. The next speaker is Dr. Hardeep Tamana. I have actually known Hardeep for probably 8-9 years. Yes, and he still looked unchanged. And he surprised me last night when he came with a very young lady. He introduced me that lady as his daughter, who is already in college. Is she here? So I was like, oops. So, yes, so Dr. Hardeep Tamana, as I know him, has been very active in the distribution and marketing side of investment products, including Islamic investment product. But now he has progressed to the next level. He is now the managing director of Avenir Registrars, which effectively, if you have had a product here from Joe, which has been illiquid, and is converted into a liquid and tradable product by the fund manager, you need to buy and sell the product, correct? You need to register that product. And you don't want to, probably go to a real estate agent to buy and sell. You need technology. You want to sit comfortably with your tablets and your iPad and transact. And that is what we would be listening today from the presentation of Dr. Hardeep on the registrar's role in making sure that we are comfortable in transacting or buy and sell in real estate. Please.
Good morning. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, so you have this amazing situation, great products like Joe, many issuers and companies with great ideas out there in the market who come out and want to reach out to investors. Likewise, many investors out there with liquid reserves looking to find good ideas, want to invest in them. So how does the system allow for that? Obviously, as Abbas mentioned, there is that old-fashioned direct route. You can go in and simply engage directly, own the entity, but that isn't, scalable, isn't accessible for most people. So essentially, funds, Takaful investors, have a number of requirements that they face. And one of the things that they face, of course, is liquidity. They want to access the pipeline of issuers. They want to access pipeline of product, but they simply have the big challenge of using systems and accessing what may be available in the market. So the problem becomes, how do you take a illiquid product like real estate or commodities, which are classically regarded as illiquid, and convert them into a form that an investor can access? The classic form that has obviously been achieved, if you have tons of these items, is to create what are classically known as notes. Sukuk is a type of note as a legal structure. And therefore, on the other hand, as an equity type product, you've got the choice of REITs, which were mentioned earlier. These effectively become a tool, and everyone knows of them. But the purpose of this conversation was actually to try to go behind the scenes and explain somewhat more about how you can actually how that conversion takes place effectively. So what I'm going to do is effectively talk it through as if you were a hypothetical issuer of a security. And two questions come to mind when you've got this product. You might be sitting on whatever it may be, and I'll go at a very general level. You've got investors after you, wanting to, take hold of product. You have, on the other side, the demand to meet. But effectively, you end up in a situation where you've got to look after these potential investors. So the key steps that I wanted to cover were in the area of accessibility. And I suppose the key situation here is to sort of look at the framework. An issuer will go out there, will have to connect with the explanations that they'll need to make that the product they've got is Sharia compliant. A Takaful investor is not going to be looking at the market and saying they'll take any odd product, they'll want the right type. So the Sharia advisory boards get involved. The lawyers who'll structure these notes effectively are involved. You've got various issuers who'll be producing the product memorandum. There's an input there to be had. So effectively, from an issuer's perspective, if you're out there, you've got to engage a set of professionals. Question often comes up, why do you need to engage these professionals? There are various regulations that need to be met. There are various requirements that need to be met. Effectively, you are giving your investors a legal title of some form to some entitlement in what you've got as a company, whether it's a equivalent of an equity product or a debt product. And I use the word debt product very loosely because, of course, under conventional understanding, any note, any certificate that a company issues is technically a debt product. It becomes a promissory note, effectively. So essentially, you get to a stage where you've got everything ready. You want to actually go out there as an issuer and turn these notes into something electronic. And that's where the likes of us get involved. We take in these products, whatever they are, whatever instrument it is, and convert it into an electronic form that can be then held on an exchange or held in a depository. And essentially, that's where you end up with the next steps. So the conventional understanding is you create what are known as global notes, or you can create, and these used to be either bearer or registered. Effectively, you're talking about registered securities these days. And sorry if I get into a bit detail here, but essentially what you're looking at globally in terms of systems are central securities depositories and international securities depositories which actually hold these instruments. This effectively is what connects the world, whether you are listing them on the London Stock Exchange or New York or whichever exchange in the world, the security ends up sitting in one of these depositories. In the UK, the system is we've a slightly different system to a standard CSD where you go and speak to Euroclear Bank or Clearstream who will get you these products created. Here you sit and speak to registrars who effectively are a gateway or an issuing agent into the system. And once your security as an issuer is in the system, as it were, it can then be connected to an exchange or any other platform where the security can be traded. So putting it into a context, if a Takaful operator has various liquidity requirements, and these may be short-term or long-term liquidity requirements, they may have segmentation from an asset manager's perspective to look at. And when they want access to that, it's a case of then saying, okay, they can effectively purchase these securities in the system, and whichever depository they're holding, whatever global custodian as a Bank of New York or one of these other big banks that you'd be using to hold these securities through, effectively comes into and holds these assets inside these depositories. But effectively, the depositories are using what is known as an ISIN, a unique security number, creating the security in that system and allowing individuals or corporates to hold it. I had jumped there. So that was I missed a slide there. Sorry, I didn't realize. Essentially, so moving on, securities market, essentially for Sukuk, turning to that area, there is a classic Eurobond market. There are various domestic markets, and if essentially these platforms or these securities centers allow these securities to be held and traded. A lot of the legal structures I've seen create paper forms of securities, but our job effectively is to create an electronic holding which then others can transact in. Just as a quick jump to where current Sukuk, for example, are held, and I'll focus on Sukuk for a second because it is quite interesting. You hear of funds as one mechanism, you hear of equity-type REITs as a mechanism, but it's quite interesting. Sukuk get talked about, and currently, from a listings perspective, the largest issuer or the largest transaction platform for them seems to be the Dublin Stock Exchange, which has about 43 listed Sukuk with 61 odd billion of programs and about 24 billion of issued securities on those systems. As soon as these are created, they are effectively taken up and held to maturity. Very rarely are they transacted. And similarly, there are other exchanges like London, Berlin. Luxembourg's not got that many at the moment on the stock exchange, but there's quite a lot of pipeline in there. But essentially, these are all venues available for holding these securities. And from an issuer's perspective, the reality is that it does not matter what your size is. There's a common perception that only the largest organizations can access these systems. And the fact of the matter is that from small, medium enterprises to large-scale enterprises, the mechanism is about the same. It's always a case of access, and it's been a unique feature of our the CREST system in the UK and Ireland that does provide easier access for small, medium enterprises to get involved in the issuance programs. The cost barriers are slightly higher on the bigger CSDs, but that's usually the only barrier that sort of differentiates between the UK-Irish system versus the rest of the systems that are out there in the world. So essentially, how long does it take? The access to these, and I'll focus on the UK side for the moment, an issuer with the right product, having had all the correct legals and the brochures, the sort of prospectuses, brochures, whatever they've got as marketing information to investors ready. They've got asset managers who'll be prepared to take those assets out and speak to the investors or connect the investors. The time frame is as short as 2 weeks. These securities can be taken from paper form, converted into electronic form, and permitted to get onto an exchange or onto a trading platform, and there are plenty of those out there, which can then permit effectively, as Noripah said earlier, you on your iPad or on whatever trading platform you've got to access them and trade them. So the mechanisms are actually, again, more straightforward, but it always boils down to the documentation, the process, the readiness and willingness of the issuer to move with, with the sort of issuance process. So essentially, that's what I wanted to sort of highlight, that you've got access to global markets that are perhaps simpler than many people perceive. Once you've accessed those global markets, effectively, even as an SME or any other size of issuer, you've got the opportunity to both access an investor base, but also turning it around from the other aspect for the Takaful industry. The potential there is both to access a wider pool of investments, and from individual CIO perspectives to start tackling a number of the challenges that we've heard being raised yesterday and probably will hear being raised in the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hardeep Tamana. We are just in time. When I heard him talking, reminds me of a joke on Registrars, and he talked about listing. So there is this joke that says that the most successful female financier was Moses' mother. Why? Because she went to the bank and floated a prophet. So she basically need not use a registrar to float and fleet and list a prophet. Now, we have progressed beyond that. We now need a registrar and technology to support our transaction as we can go beyond the prophet in our initiative to invest. So we have now drawn on all the experiences, the perspectives, and offerings of the 3 panel members. And the time now, my watch says, is 10:33, so we have 10 minutes for a question and answer. I'm very conscious of time because if we delay this one, we will probably precipitate a chain reaction of delayed on the other panels as well, so I'm sticking to time. Now, I think I'll start the ball rolling because as moderator, I would have this privilege to ask this burning question. As Joe, this question is for you actually. Yeah? I'm 60 years old and I just celebrated my birthday. So I'm a Malaysian and my country is very, very, very unprepared with care for my colleagues who are baby boomers who have started to retire. So one of the things I wanted to do is to establish not a disruptive nursing home, but a nursing home for people of baby boomers and above who have started to age. So would you be ready to, would Triamant be ready to launch a Triamant Malaysia in a country where I live, Malaysia, probably UK? Are you ready for that?
Would we be ready to do that? The answer is yes. What is needed for that? That is, we are going right now through a process of packaging the product, which means that in a rather detailed way, a general way and a detailed way, we are turning the product into blue books, guidelines, the know-how which has been built over these years within the team and which is evolving basically on a daily basis, and that about what is crucial in the housing area. And you could think, well, that's just project development. It's not. I mean, yes, it's project development on that side, but there is a lot of interference with the concept itself. The whole area of care, the whole area of life, and the financing. And what we want to do in the international rollout, based on what I've learned in the 90s when I was involved in franchising models in the US and licensing models in Europe, is to go through either franchising or licensing model and to identify the right master franchise per country. In your field, you would probably call it a lead party, a master franchise who can go straight into the market or have identify individual franchisees, whereby the packaging supported by our international management allows to create and to tune into local legislation and local habits a Triamant product for a specific country. That model allows us to go fast into international rollout, and one of the goals is to, besides the packaging of how the product looks like and the in-depth description, that we at the same time bring financing with it for a certain percentage to allow the master franchise in a country to go fast also.
Thank you. Can I treat to the audience for question and answers? I've got 1, 2, 3. Since he's an award winner, we probably give the award winner first. Mr. Zainal? Can we have the mic to the audience in the front here? Can you put your hands up? He's running to give the mic. Thank you. So we have Mr. Zainal, Mr. Kamil, and Brother Alberto. Chairman, we'll leave you last. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello. Okay, thank you very much, Datuk. I think what Joe presented, it was very interesting, and I think Noripah basically correctly pointed out that our country, Malaysia, is not well prepared for the aging population. But we are not unique. There are many countries who are not prepared for the aging population. But one aspect of the model, I think Joe didn't maybe elaborate as much, which is basically how do you get into this sort of home, if you like? How do you pay for the services? And, is it through the process of leasing the home, or the individual's got to buy the home? And then, you said that you can actually, you also provide medical services. So is that so-called free within the context of the service that you provide, or is it on top of it? So, because you've been concentrating more in terms of the financing aspect, in terms of providing the capital to start the project, but the issue is also affordability. So if you want to go into a country like Malaysia, for example, then the issue of affordability perhaps a bit more important, depending on which segment of the market you're going for. So perhaps you can elaborate on that.
The question rightly is so about our business model. Can I turn the question in this way?
Sure.
Okay. As I said, there are 3 areas, the real estate area, the housing area, the care area, and the life area. The key component in the revenues of a Triamant company is the real estate. People who are living there are paying a monthly fee, which is including the rent, and the rent, by the way, is the most important part of that monthly fee. Also included are very basic services. Above that, there are additional possibilities. We are using the Harvard-related Kano model, which means that in everything what we are offering a standard, comfort, and prestige level, allowing people to choose. And that is true in the way you take care of the interior of your apartment, but it's true in terms of, in the second part of the business model, the care, and it's true in terms of the third model, life. Regarding care, we are using everything what is available in terms of financial mechanisms in a country from a care point of view. So if the government has elements of home care which are partially or fully financed by the government, if there exists a model of service checks and so on and so on. So depending upon the country, we investigate, of course, for each next country the various potential streams of revenues and of returns in order to make the right total business model. And the third level, or the third pillar better, is life. And therefore, again, the basic thing about life, getting your life coach meeting is included in the monthly payment. You want more, You can get more at all times, but remember our 5 circles. We stimulate the person itself, and we actively engage family, friends, neighbors, and volunteers. And we do that to a significant extent. We even bring, for people who are feeling lonely, their historical family and friends network. We map that. We bring these people around the table. We ask for engagements for the long run vis-à-vis our customer inhabitant, and so on. So what I'm saying is, it's not all about putting money on the table for a service, because a number of things are for free for the customer, and we stimulate it because it's part of the whole model. But again, the revenues have these 3 pillars, and in terms of living, we have other special things. You don't buy the flat apartment, the house. You either are in a rent situation. That's one possibility. Or we have created an own Triamant bond. We could look at whether that could become a sukuk. I haven't studied that yet. But it's a bond. You can subscribe. You don't have to, but you can subscribe. And ideally, it's reflecting the worth, the value of that size and interior of that apartment. And linked to that bond, there is a lifelong guarantee of living there. It's even passing on to the next generation. It's a 55 years duration, and we pay continuously a flat fee, a flat return for the bond holder on it, as long as the person is not living there. And as soon as the person or couple or family is living there, we deduct it from their monthly charge, allowing to subtract more than half of the monthly charge. So there are a number of specific elements allowing to make the business model from a customer point of view as interesting as possible, and from a Triamant point of view, a healthy return without going for the high returns. We don't want to do that. We want a healthy return, but we want by all means being having sustainability in the core of our actions, which means 3 pillars: the Fork Principle, 1999, John Elkington, social innovation, ecological efficiency, and economic profitability, of course, but only as one of the 3 pillars, and that in a healthy, modest, mature way.
Thank you, Joe. So many permutations. I'm just wondering how he remains calm and relaxed with so much of value chain involved, so much emotion involved. And I imagine there's quite a number of dating there as you raise emotion. Next question from Mr. Kamil. He's on the front, second row there. Please, microphone, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am another Malaysian. I know there are a few Malaysians in the room today, but I'm a different Malaysian. And I like to put it on record. I'm a very proud person standing today because Dr. Noripah is someone that comes from my hometown.
Thank you.
And I'm very proud.
I just met him today.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Brother Iqbal, for connecting us.
Yes. Now, my question, very, very straightforward and very simple question addressed to Roberts. And I'm afraid maybe the answer that he's going to give has been explained a little bit. Now, my question is how you see yourself or how you draw the line, your role as a social undertaker, assuming a very important social responsibility, and running your program as a private enterprise with the objective of making a lot of money? Yeah. And two, how you see yourself rivaling the care home run by government agencies? So those are my questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for these questions. The first question for me is an easy one because we are in full harmony. What I'm saying is we are driven to make the world a better place, and this is not just words. The people who know us, and with us I really mean the team. We are in the meantime with 130 people. I would invite you to come to Belgium and to meet a lot of them, and you'll see they're all driven by the same passion and competence, bringing people from all sectors together in this endeavor, hiring top-level people from various companies, from various sectors, because we are convinced today, after years of groundwork, that we are on something really society impacting, not to say society changing. And so money is, of course, necessary to do this, but it's a tool. It's not the end. It's a tool. And me as an entrepreneur, and I'm not alone, we are initially with 2 co-founders, and today we have a strong and internationally backed executive committee. We see the needed money also as an instrument to do much more. For instance, what we are doing right now in our home country is talking to the government, convincing our ministers. Our Minister of Welfare, by the way, is in the meantime our biggest supporter. He did one of the openings of our Triamant some weeks ago, and he said literally in presence of the press that Triamant today is the #1 inspirator for him for his future policies on welfare in the country. And we even tried to convince him to take that concept of blue zones with Triamant as living labs, but blue zones all over the country. And I think within 18 months we will succeed in convincing the government of that. We don't earn anything on spreading that over the country. Yes, if it's 3 months, but not if it's much broader. And we see it much broader. We see it as a wave through where a lot of independent entrepreneurs in various parts of the sectors can participate in this. So at the same time, we are creating startups. For instance, we are creating today the Airbnb of volunteership. We are working on this for 2 years with the innovation team of VEX Lab, the innovation lab of the University of Lausanne in Switzerland. And we're going to launch it within 6 months. Literally a platform where we're going to match demand and supply on volunteership. Now, I can tell you, we will never earn €1 or $1 on this subject, but it's going to be a huge investment. We're going to take care of getting this break even. But we do this because we are so convinced, like I said before, and sorry I'm repeating, that we are impacting the world in a positive way, in a professional way that is changing things we have done for too long time in the same way. Like our chairman said before, we are disrupting the nursing homes. Nursing homes are not needed anymore. We are serving clients with dementia, Alzheimer, even palliative care if somebody wants to have that. Of course, depending upon whether that is fitted for a country or society, yes or no, but the possibilities are there not to go to a nursing home anymore, or to a service flat with ambient assistance facilities. These are models of the past. And so this drives us. That was your first question. And your second question, I have to think about. The second question was, help me.
Between the public offered nursing home. How do you compete between the public offered nursing home and your privately offered?
Yes, in our country, yes, there are also government, not government.
But you've got to make it brief because I've got some notification that we need to proceed.
Keep it very short.
Yes,
in my country, like in many other countries, there are local community, local authority nursing homes also. We do not consider them as quote-unquote competitors. Of course, you can only live, some people live in two places, but basically you can only live in one place. So everybody who is offering housing to a certain degree is a competitor. But really, we are so different from anybody else because we never look at the others. Of course, we know what's going on, but we will not say, oh, party A does this, oh, we'll quickly copy it, and so on. Not at all. We are doing our own groundwork, original thinking, see where society is going, working hard on understanding day after day worldwide society trends, and that's inspiring us on doing the things we are doing, which apparently are pretty innovative, but it's coming out of groundwork, not coming out of doing what others do.
Thank you very much. Joe? Looks like Joe is the most popular on the panel when you talk about curiosity and trying to find out a lot more information on this disruptive offering that he is introducing to the Takaful operators. Brother Alberto, I've got a signal, that it's time's up for the panel. I will have to probably give you private time with Joe for you. Your question is for Joe or for... Right, for the investment manager. So I can probably, you can go outside to have discussion with Abbas. Thank you very much for having taken this transformative journey with this panel in asset management. I have been a banker for 33 years, and people don't have much trust, actually, in investment bankers. So I hope you has established that trust as I moderate the three panelists here, which reminds me of a joke on investment bankers. Hospitals report that the hearts of bankers are in strong demand for transplant patients because they have never been used. But I tell you what, bankers never die. They just lose interest. And with that, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Join me with the normal appreciation for all the three panels. Joe, Dr. Hardeep, and Abbas. Thank you very much.